Yeah. They didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the parents would do that. Done.
Good. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first council meeting of 2025, Monday, January the 13th. Call the meeting to order at 6:30. And we will begin with playing the national anthem. So that's the usual stand period. I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Shelburne resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. These traditional territories upon which we live, work, play, and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions, and it is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest for this evening? Seeing none, that takes us on to minutes from our December 9th council meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes as presented and circulated? By Councillor Sample, second by Councillor Bouchardy. Discussion on those? All in favor? Carried. All right, takes us to public question period. A few people out on a stormy night. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Any questions? Okay. Just here to watch. All right. Okay. No presentations or delegations tonight. Any council inquiries? Councillor Sample would be. Councillor Bonato's not here.
You forwarded all his questions to Dan.
By the way, Councillor Bonato is under the weather. That's why he's not here yet.
Just to bring up about, do I have to bring it up as bring up the old bylaw or just inquiry about it now? About parking for Christmas Eve,
Christmas Eve or December 27th?
December 27th.
Yeah.
I call that Christmas Eve, continuation of Christmas Eve. So I guess what,
After midnight.
after midnight. So I guess there was a bit of misunderstanding probably on my part when I said give the relief to include Boxing Day.
Right.
So when I mentioned that at Boxing Day, I would assume that it would carry over into the morning of the 27th, not the midnight of the 27th or 12:01 of the 27th AM. Was because I wouldn't expect people to be at their relatives or their family members or whatever was happening and have some drinks into them, and then at 12 o'clock they'd have to go out and move their cars. I was expecting that night to be included in that. It wasn't. So I'd like to have that included in that item and give relief for those semi tickets that we did issue for that time frame.
Okay.
And I'll make sure I do it next time and explain the AM, PM to that.
Yeah, well, and in fairness, I think when you brought that up, when we discussed it, we all probably.
And that's what I thought too, but I think everybody assumed when I said Boxing Day, they would assume we carry over into it, but misunderstanding the timeframes, and if we work on a 24-hour clock, then I'll make sure that it gets covered next time. But I would like to ask for relief of those tickets that were issued on that timeframe for that night.
Okay, so procedurally, that by motion.
Yes, so a motion need 2/3 majority vote to
Yeah.
reconsider that motion.
Yeah.
And then we would reintroduce that motion and include the 27.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I'll
so,
make the motion.
so first one is a motion to reconsider.
Yes,
Is there a seconder for that? Okay, moved by Councilor Sample, second by Councilor Wagner. This is the one that we need a 2/3 majority for, so is there any discussion on that? No. All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. So the motion to reconsider passes. So now we vote on the amended motion to include those additional hours.
Correct.
and do we have to put in the motion to rip the tickets up or refund if anybody did pay? That's included in that motion.
Yes. Sorry, if I could just clarify, so the tickets that were issued on December 27, there were 37 tickets issued, 32 on the street, 3 parked over the sidewalk, 1 parked on the board, 1 municipal lot. So what would be considered in that motion is those that the on-street parking in the municipal lot?
Yeah.
Not the sidewalk.
Not
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
And
Correct.
just for clarification, that's until noon on the 27th, or is that for the whole day of the 27th?
Well, it goes into effect at, what is it, 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. or 8 a.m.?
sorry.
Like, when can you park on the road again in the morning?
8 a.m.
8 a.m. So it
So
goes
go to 8 a.m.
So you just want
Midnight
relief
till
from midnight AM,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
midnight till 8 a.m.
And then after 8 a.m. they'd be allowed to anyways,
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
it takes place again, right? Yeah, 12:01.
12:01.
Yeah. Yes,
So you'll move that.
Yes.
sure, I'll second
Second
it.
that again. Okay, any discussion on that one? All in favor? Excellent. Any other inquiries? Okay. All right, we'll jump right in then. So the first item is a verbal update from our CAO regarding our upcoming delegation next Monday with Ministry of Transportation regarding potential truck bypass. So I'll turn that over to Denise.
Thanks, Marla. So council is aware of the request that we made to the Ministry of Transportation. And we were granted, as the mayor just mentioned, a delegation. So the literal submission on what we provided is included in your agenda package. What I'm gonna do is just provide a little bit more background so that it's aware, the public is aware of the efforts that are made to resolve this challenge. So as we all know, we did a delegation last time on the specific issue in 2019 at Roma as well. And in that delegation, we had reiterated again that since 2003, council of the town of Shelburne has been requesting that some relief or solution to the congestion and all the negative impacts that come from traffic related to trucks, particularly in our downtown, be addressed. Suffice it to say that we haven't been successful yet in getting a solution to that, so we are attempting again to emphasize that those problems. So what we're looking at, in addition to what we were submitting from our 2019 delegation, which will be a link, so there's no point reiterating what was discussed then in terms of the maps. Additionally, through the county and their transportation master plan, and I'll let the mayor or the deputy speak to that more so, is that there was some review of a truck route or a truck bypass in terms of what direction that could follow. There was no consensus on a preferred route that would be submitted as part of the transportation master plan, which sort of lands us back to the predicament we're in now. So what we've done is review two general options. We're gonna look at using existing infrastructure for roads, and as we all know, within the town of Shelburne, our assets don't allow our roads to serve, whether for a truck route for a truck bypass, just literally because of the density under which we live. And we have actually reminded the province through the summation of the 2021 census that our density per square kilometer is equivalent to Vaughan and many other cities. So we are very tight on our 6.6 square kilometers. So what we looked at, and again, the only way to do that is two ways. Utilize the existing infrastructure, which is the majority of that is in other municipalities, which we recognize and appreciate that too would have the same ramifications that we're dealing with transferred to them, but not at our density levels. Many of these roads are more rural, but we certainly appreciate that and are respectful of that process. The other thing that we looked at, which was brought up through a consultative process that the county initiated with lower tier municipalities with MTO back in July, was whether or not there was any capacity to look at land acquisition to create new linkages. So there would be almost like what's happening with the 413 or the Bradford bypass, there would be a new literal construction and a road linkage. So that's just been identified in our options. Once we're completely final with this and we've completed our delegation on Monday, we will then release our delegation to the public. Similarly, we did that in the past on the council page. So I'm just gonna, for this point, because I think this is critically important on our principles, that we're stating that why the truck bypass is critical. It's more than just the congestion, the traffic noise, impact to the downtown mental health and wellness, the viability of our investments being impacted because, as we know, for those of us that attend events in our parks, you cannot hear yourself speak. So for a business that has to have a patio, for example, or would like to, it's certainly not a great experience to sit there and enjoying a coffee or a sandwich when you've got this rumbling going past you on all the residents that live down here. So these are going to be our 5 key statements in terms of support and principle. We support a safe and timely movement of goods and services. We figured that's very important to state because we believe in the economy of the truck traffic and what they do in terms of moving goods. We recognize and try to limit the impact of truck noise on the interest of our communities, such as safety, congestion, noise, and air quality. So this is bigger than the downtown. This is about our entire community, connecting lanes coming in. We also have a vision for our downtown, and we've gone through a CIP, we've gone through feasibility studies. We're not able to deliver on that vision with this congestion and just the aesthetic impact of what trucks are doing to us, let alone, I know some of our staff witnessed it. It is quite the experience to see a no right turn take place when you are trying to navigate Main and Owen Sound, and what that entails in terms of just literally the backlog of trucks this way and trucks that way, and then you're the pedestrian trying to navigate that intersection of that crosswalk. So we're saying that if we want to have a downtown that's vibrant, if we want to have investment, we have to deal with this. Because this downtown, you can say contrast to Orangeville, is suffering because of that truck presence. We're also recognizing that we've made a commitment as the town of Shelburne, repeatedly asking for investment through grant funding, that we will build 2,000 homes. But this kind of truck traffic and those impediments are also a deterrent for that in terms of market viability. So they're basically in conflict with one another in terms of managing that kind of vision and strategy, because we can't fulfill those commitments if we don't have the ambiance and the aesthetic that those that are seeking a small town expect. They don't expect downtown, like city-like traffic in a small town of 10,000 people. And lastly, we want to unlock our ability for intensification. So those two go hand in hand, but the downtown is been identified as a place for intensification, whether that's a vertical integration, potentially in more, more dwellings that are not single purpose townhouses or homes, because what that creates is a walkability that creates for people that don't have cars or that don't want to have to go far, that they have that ability to actually live in a community where walkability and engagement is really important. So we also took the opportunity in this one to literally reference the Ontario Trucking Association's truck routing principles and why those are so critical, not only for their economy, but for the wellness of the communities which they go through. So without doing the whole thing, that really is it. Our request is the following. We're asking that the MTO lead the engagement and facilitation to implement this next step, because we're recognizing that we, as lower tier municipalities, feel we've gone as far as we can possibly go with this initiative and moving the ball on it. We want the MTO to then explore based on us providing 4 options, whether those route options can be reviewed for a truck route and a truck bypass. And we've also acknowledged that this route that we've identified will include potentially the need to acquire land. We're also saying we're exceptionally respectful of acknowledging the cost for land purchase. We're also very respectful of the fact that based on our current estimates, it's about $650,000 per lane kilometer to develop, and that does not include acquisition, EA related costs and all the other processes. Which then ties back to the fact that the most feasible economic approach is to use existing infrastructure, but we also know that that's not everything that's being embraced. So that's really our delegation in a nutshell. And like I mentioned, the mayor will address some of the other reviews to the TMP, and then certainly when we're done our delegation, we're at 2:20 on Monday, then Tuesday morning when we're back, we'll post that and do it. And happy to take any other questions after you're done.
Sure. So I think as most of you know, that delegations at these conferences are like literally 15 minutes from start to finish without any flexibility. Like the staffers are knocking at the door at 15 minutes. So these aren't meant to be, fulsome conversations that are going to solve all the problems, but it's meant to just sort of get face time again in front of the ministry to say, look, the issue hasn't resolved itself, it hasn't gone away, and to keep that dialogue going. Denise mentioned that, at least in terms of recorded history, this goes back to at least 2003 as being sort of an official priority, the part of the town of Shelburne. We're not there yet, but I do think we have made significant progress in the last 5 or 6 years. Following our delegation in 2019, we were advised by our MPP, Deputy Premier, that one of the things that would be incredibly helpful is to have Shelburne's truck bypass included in some form of county or regional transportation plan. At that point, the county of Dufferin didn't have a transportation master plan. I think we were probably one of the only counties, if not the only county. Okay, but there aren't many that didn't. As of last year, the county has adopted a formal transportation master plan, and Shelburne's truck bypass is right in there as one of the top 2 priorities. So this is a regional priority. This isn't just a town of Shelburne issue. Everybody recognizes that. That said, amongst all of the lower tier municipalities, it's difficult for everybody to come to a consensus and say this is exactly where it should go, because it's going to have impacts on potentially Amaranth, potentially Langton. So at this point, I think our 15-minute pitch is, look, going back in recent memory, we've done everything that the province has asked us to do in terms of moving this ball down the field. And we're sort of at the end of what we can do. So time for the province to pick it up and run with it. So again, this isn't a meeting that I'm expecting to walk out of with a commitment from the minister, but it is hopefully just part of the ongoing process to keep the pressure on and keep getting in front of them. But this is a serious issue that's impacting us. And it goes far beyond just the transportation issue. There's safety issues, there's local economic development issues, there's housing issues. So we'll see where it goes, and we'll report back to the next meeting. So you're coming, you're going to be there. Steve Burnett's going to be there, and I've invited the warden, who hopefully, as long as her schedule permits, she has a bunch of delegations over those few days, but hopefully she can be there just to kind of show some solidarity from the county perspective. Yeah. So more to report next meeting, hopefully.
If the community can understand we're trying, maybe we can rally them, and the more voices that send their emails in, to the ministry to say, listen, we live here, this is our issue, this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
The better as well, right? More voices, the better. I mean, Facebook is great, but the ministry isn't on it.
Yeah.
So, you know?
And our local MPP too.
Yeah.
This is in my mind firmly a provincial issue. The vast majority of businesses in Little Tree Town are not making local deliveries.
No,
They're, using provincial highways that happen to intersect our downtown core.
Yep.
And they're en route to some other destination. So
exactly.
we just happen to be in the middle of their path.
30 years ago, it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
It's different now.
All right, any discussion on that? Or, okay, just get a motion then to receive the CAO's verbal update. By Councillor Pichardy, second by Councillor Sample, all in favor? Carried. All right, next is a report from our treasurer regarding some amendments to our tax collection policy. Carried.
Thank you. Through the mayor, this is just a minor amendment to our policy. Staff has done a social media campaign to introduce a new 12-month payment plan. For years, we have offered a 10-month repayment plan for property taxes, but with the economy and everybody struggling, we thought maybe a 12-month plan might help some of the residents. So this is almost like asking for approval after the fact, but we had to find out if there was an interest in it. So we did do a social media campaign, and we have actually got, I believe it's at 100 in my report, 100 homeowners signed up for the plan, which would start this month. So the policy is just literally adding that additional payment option in there. And then we also did have to update another section just to align with our new user fees and charges by law, which is also identified in this law.
All right, and just for the benefit of residents who may be watching, if they want to take advantage of this plan, what do they do?
They should sign up right away. There is a link on our website and an application form. And if they get that in right away, the payment comes out the last Friday of every month.
Okay.
So the first payment will start in June.
And if they don't happen to be tech savvy, can they?
They can, yes, they can come in or phone as well.
Excellent. No, I think that's good. Right. Any questions, Gary?
For clarity, we're not removing the 10-month one,
No.
we're just adding that 12 months, so they will have both options.
Yes.
Okay, right, perfect.
And then we also have the installment-based pre-authorized plan as well, so that if you want to pay on the due date, we can take those funds as well.
Excellent. Can I have a motion then to receive the presentation and approve the suggested policy amendment by Councillor Fegan, seconded by Councillor Sample. In favor? That's carried. All right, next is a bylaw dealing with transfer payments. Carrie, do you want to speak to that one too?
Sure, thank you. So this is just the annual borrowing bylaw that we have to pass every year. And it just allows us to have funds available if needed. We've never had to use them since I've been here. Part of that is to cover any expenses that may be incurred before the tax installments become due and before people pay their taxes. And as you are aware, we do have considerable tax arrears. So that money is not physically in the bank, but yet our budget has moved on and we are spending those funds regardless. So this is just a temporary borrowing bylaw should we ever find ourselves in need of some funds.
Sorry, I misspoke. I read over onto the next page. This isn't the transfer payment bylaw. This is the borrowing bylaw. Yeah. And for anybody who happened to read the agenda, this doesn't mean that we're borrowing $12 million. It gives us the ability, should that become necessary. Questions for Carrie on that? I have a mover and a seconder for that bylaw. Deputy Mayor Hall, second by Councillor Pichardy. All in favor? That's carried. The next one is the bylaw to allow us to enter into the transfer payment agreement.
Correct. And I believe this one is for the fire department. grant that the fire department received. But because, they're not a municipality, it has to flow through the town. So the agreement is actually with the town. Once the fire department spends those funds and we submit the claim and get the grant, then we would get the fire department back. It's kind of like a flow through.
We've done that
Yes.
several times with the
The arena.
arena, library,
The Legion.
yeah, so just a lot of grants stipulate the actual agreement has to be with one municipality and not a board, so. Any questions on that? Mover and seconder for that, then, Mayor Hall, by Councilor Sample, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next is a request from the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association regarding a flag raising request, so that came in December 19th. Discussion on that one. Nope. Okay, this is just the same flag that we've raised for the past couple of years. Would you like to make a motion, Councilor Charity? By Councilor Wagner. In favor? It's carried. All right, so notices of motions. We have one notice of motion from Councilor Wagner. We chatted briefly before the meeting. Given the length of the motion, I'm not going to read it out. It is in the agenda. Is there a seconder to support that? Councilor Sample, thank you. So now that it's been moved and seconded, I will let Councilor Wagner speak to it, and maybe you can just give us a much briefer explanation as to what the intent is.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, even just in the first little bit, if you have kind of a quick read over it, it just kind of sums it all up. But basically, the province has a very ambitious target for housing. I think it's well over 1 million homes by 2031 or something around that nature. And we've seen sort of what they're doing to facilitate that with, ways that they've done stuff for developers to make sure that the building happens faster. But we're still lacking, in my opinion, as to how they're making municipalities whole to come up with funding for, critical infrastructure. So, with doing or requesting this, where we can sort of see some of the land transfer tax allowed to come to municipalities, the GST on the sale of homes, also be allowed to come to us. I think it allows municipalities to have a sustainable source of income that we can actually rely on. So that will help, we always say growth pays for growth, but we're finding that that's not sort of, the case in some areas. So I think this would help with that and, would just allow us to, again, just have that little bit of money at least to, that we can rely on, right? So, it's just basically asking the government to consider that, because they make quite a bit, and I think we should be able to have some of it so that we can, not burden the taxpayer even more, right? They're already paying the land transfer taxes, they're already paying the GST, and then it's like, hey, now you're gonna have to pay higher property taxes because we need to fix a road, or we need to put in a sidewalk or whatnot, right? So let's try not to burden the taxpayer even more, and maybe some of that money can come back to us.
This or similar motions to this have been gaining a fair bit of traction, I think, through the province. We've had a similar one at the county. I think it was our December meeting. And it's funny because in Ontario, the city of Toronto has a municipal land transfer tax in addition to the provincial portion. So if you're buying property in the city of Toronto, you're essentially paying double the land transfer tax. The city portion obviously goes to the city of Toronto, the provincial portion goes to the province. The difference is the city of Toronto is governed under the City of Toronto Act, which permits them to do that. None of the other municipalities in Ontario have the ability to do it. So, you know, essentially this is just asking the province to kick back some of the tax that they're already collecting, that people are already paying to municipalities that are actually providing the services to the homeowners.
Yeah.
In my day job, I mean, that's one of the questions I get asked a lot, is where does this tax go?
Yep.
Like I don't know, right, like it definitely doesn't come back here.
Yes, definitely does not.
But, you know, where it goes when it lands in Queen's Park, you know, it just falls in the general provincial coffers where I agree completely. It would make the most sense, I think, when it's related to land
Yeah.
and property, to be directed at least in part back to municipalities. So,
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this one? So technically, because this is brought as a notice of motion, even though you sort of mentioned it a couple of meetings ago, I guess we do need consent to consider it tonight if we want to vote on it. Otherwise, we'd have to vote on it the next meeting. Does anybody object to doing it tonight? Okay, all right. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? That's carried. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, on to communications. Anything in there that anyone wants to deal with separately?
Number 7, I guess, for the most part, I mean, it's hard to, I don't know, I guess it's just, I'm not sure how we can get the information out to people. I mean, we keep trying, and it's almost like we're reiterating the same things over and over again. But please, like, people realize that we don't have the power that you think we have. I have personally sat here and said no to a developer, and it doesn't matter because if we all vote no, they will go to the Court of Appeals, and then we will be, as a municipality, paying for court fees and lawyer fees to fight our decision against their decision, or their proof, I guess you could say. If they are following all of the guidelines that the province and the government in general, whether it be federal or provincial, are, you know, asking for in order to develop a piece of land. And right now, it's full force on development. Like, it is, they want these homes built. Then the judge is gonna vote in their favor, and we are wasting taxpayers' dollars to fight it. So it's not to say that it's pointless. You know, we still want to speak up for the community, and we understand, you know, where some of the community members lay with regards to the overdevelopment, in their opinion, to the town. But we also have to sit around this table and be financially responsible. And if we understand that going to the Court of Appeals is not going to be in our favor, then we have to not do that. We have to make sure that we're not wasting taxpayers' money on legal fees when we know we're going to lose. So as much as some of us, you know, possibly around this table don't love the development, there's legislation now involved with development. So we abide by that, we have to. And so we're going to see development, and we are not the only town that is rapidly developing. So with that said as well, it doesn't mean that it's okay, it just means it's the trend right now. Everybody's developing, all the municipalities are being told that they have targets to meet, and I don't really know what the repercussions are if we don't meet them. Does anyone know that? But yeah, there you go.
Well, and I think the other point is, you know, development is a fact of life. It's going to happen, whether we fight it or resist it or not, to some degree. So, you know, your point's well taken, and then to take it a step further, I think oftentimes rather than just flatly oppose it,
Yeah.
knowing that it's going to come one way or another, we're better to get ahead of it and try to shape it and leverage it in some way that benefits the community as opposed to just
Saying no.
proposing it.
Yeah.
And having it happen in a way that we can't control.
And we've done that too, right, where we've asked developers to do this or change that or incorporate more of this. I mean, Emerald Crossing is an example for that. Initially when it came to council, there was less retail there. And we went back and we said, listen, we want you to be able to develop here, we want you to be successful, but you need to give us more retail. And so we worked with them to facilitate that, right? So it's that kind of relationship that we have to now have with developers, because unfortunately, it's happening. So I just kind of wanted to, sort of, hopefully Mr. Stevens is watching and maybe has a little bit of a better understanding now where we sit as a council and how we can't just say no.
All right, anything else?
If I was to add anything with regards to the letter, the one area of concern for me is with regards to what's characterized as the violence within the town. So again, while we have switched over to OPP, the reporting structure the data does not support what's shown here in the letter. So please understand that if there are concerns, by all means, we're there to contact the ODP and utilize them. But what's characterized here is not what the actual condition of the town.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
true. The deputy mayor and I sit on the police service board and get regular reporting. The crime numbers are not in any sort of upward trend. Seem to be what's suggested there, so, I mean, with growth, there's going to be a larger number of raw incidents of crime, but in terms of trend lines, which is what we look to, there's just simply no evidence. We're fortunate, because there are a lot of other towns that, with growth do see those trend lines. But we're not one of them, so. Okay, can I have a motion then to receive the communication items listed as information? Councilor Fegan, Councilor Charity, all in favor? It's carried. A closed session, so that leaves us with confirming bylaw. Right.
Right.
Councilor Fegan.
At least I'm not adjourning.
Carried. And motion to adjourn. Councilor Sample. All in favor? Carried. All right, thank you all. Nice and efficient tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Could be.